Hey, welcome to my channel, Cooking with Manual Focus, and today I'm going to show you how to trim a brisket. Now we're going to go through each step. We're going to remove that mohawk, then we're going to hit that fat cap, we're going to trim the sides, remove the decal, and then we're going to work on the overall shape. Now this is a Canadian prime brisket that I found at Sam's. Based on my research, a Canadian prime is just like a USDA prime. So a prime grade brisket is what we're working with. So it's about 12 to 13 pounds. So when we trim it up, we probably get about 9-10 pounds. Now we're gonna focus on the mohawk. Now I know you see that right there, a little flab of meat slash fat. We're gonna take that off because if you place your brisket on as is, you'll achieve uneven cooking and you'll probably get like some pooling on top of the brisket during the longer stages of the process. Now this right here, just bunch of fat on the side, and we just want to take that off. And again, we're gonna save everything and we're gonna use it for different recipes, like the meat for burgers, and then the fat, we're gonna render that down for tallow. Now I'm gonna try to get as close to the meat as possible without taking much meat off, so that's where you see me filling and then just making additional cuts. Now if you get everything to your liking, we're gonna focus our attention on the fat cap of the brisket. Now with the fat cap on the point side is a little bit more forgiving, because that's why they call it the fatty. It has more fat fibers in the brisket than the flat side. So some people, they even take off all the fat on the point side and then leave about 1/4 of an inch of fat on that flat side. Now for me, on the flat, I'm gonna leave that fat and I'm gonna let it render down during the cooking process. And if you happen to scalp enough fat and then it goes down to the meat, have no fear. But you see that was around the point side of the brisket, so no harm, no foul. And then we'll round off the edges on the back side. Now the side trim, I like to call this the bacon trim, because as I trim this, I'm gonna take off any oxidized meat and it's gonna look like the size of a piece of bacon. Again, this part of the process is optional. A lot of people, they just take their brisket out, season it up, throw it on the smoker, let that fat render down, and then they make any cuts of fat before they serve it. Now after we get everything to our preference, we're going to turn our focus to the decal. And the decal is a big piece of fat that will not render down during the smoking process. So you want to get as much of that decal out of the brisket as you can, but you don't want to make like huge divots and then you're gonna have to go back and then kind of smooth that brisket out. So as much as you can off of that decal, you'll be in the game. Now the silver skin, a lot of people keep the silver skin on unless you want your brisket looking pretty. This part of the fat will render down during the cooking process, so you don't really have to worry about the silver skin. But again, that's why you want to make sure that your brisket is cold, because it makes that silver skin absolutely easy to come off. Now the overall trim, I just want to make sure that I get this bad boy kind of rounded off, and then make sure like any sharp edges I kind of trim down and make it look uniform. Now that back piece of the point, it's pretty much fat, about 75% fat, 25% of meat. So I just want to again take this and then round off all my edges on this brisket, and that's what the overall trim. So I want to make sure that everything is kind of like aerodynamic, like a little sports car. And in this step of the process, you can make this brisket look as pretty as you like, and you can keep it as ugly as you like. Now again, this is probably gonna be like one of your first briskets coming off of the smoker or going on the smoker. So again, have fun with it. Again, develop your own technique. Like I said, some people don't even trim their briskets, and some people just throw it on the smoker and let that bad boy render down. Now again, with the overall trim, I want to go back and look at the back side of the brisket, and I want to round off this brisket. So you can see me right here, I'm just making downward cuts and making sure that this brisket is nice and aerodynamic as possible. Now when I talk about having your brisket cold, again, as you start cutting, your brisket's gonna heat up, and then that fat becomes slimy, and it makes it a little bit harder to cut into that brisket's fat, right? And then also make sure that you have a sharp knife, and that'll make it absolutely easy to take off fat meat while you're doing your trimming process. Now you see me, now I'm taking off meat And a lot of people probably be like, man, you taking off a bunch of meat. But again, the meat that I'm taking off, I'm going to use in other recipes. I'm going to be making some brisket burgers that are going to be absolutely delicious. And again, this part of the process is optional. You don't have to take as much meat as I took off of this brisket. Now again, like I said, once you're going and you're trimming your brisket, you want to look at the overall look of it. And if you're happy with the look of it, you can stop at any point that you want to, and then you're in the game, right? So what I'm seeing right here, I just want to take off, just a little bit more of those jagged edges. And then after that, man, I think I'm pretty much in the game. And after you get to that point where you say enough is enough, I can't trim anymore, it looks beautiful, now you're in the game. You want to get this bad boy seasoned up. So what I like to do is I like to, take a final look at my meat. And then once it's good to go, I'm gonna rub it down just a little bit, and then I'm gonna start seasoning my meat. Now I'm going in with a binder. I got some Worcestershire sauce, and then I got some Buc-ee's brisket seasoning. So I'm gonna use that W sauce as a binder, and then I'm gonna go liberally with that Buc-ee brisket seasoning. And I'm gonna tell you, fam, that Buc-ee's seasoning is absolutely fantastic. So if you never went to Buc-ee's before and tasted that brisket, it's absolutely phenomenal, fam. So I had to pick up me, some of that seasoning and then do my own brisket with it. Now we're gonna put it on this front side, follow the same steps. We're going back in with that W sauce as a binder, and then we're gonna hit it with that Buc-ee's brisket rub. And again, like I said, I want to go a little bit liberal with the rub because I'm gonna be using beef tallow when I wrap this brisket, and that beef tallow is gonna kind of mill out the brisket rub. So you want to kind of overshoot it a little bit, but not too much, right? You don't want to have like an overly salty brisket. You want to have it like just right. Make sure you hit those sides, and then I know you see you got like a lot of seasoning on that board, and then you can take your brisket and you flip it on the sides, as you'll see me do it in a little bit, and then just hit those sides with that little brisket rub that's on that cutting board. And then once you get everything to your liking, once you get everything seasoned up, then fam, that is how you trim a brisket. It's ready to go on your smoker. Hey, check out this next video that I got with my brisket. I'm gonna take you through A through Z how to smoke a brisket low and slow, and this is how it was coming out. You can see that bark right there. That looks absolutely phenomenal, fam. And I'll see you on that next video, how to cook a brisket in your pellet grill, and we'll see you guys soon. Peace.